Before I start this video, I just want to let you guys know that there will be a podcast coming out on the channel very shortly. It'll be a primarily Cosmere-focused podcast, but we will be talking about many different fantasy series, including Wheel of Time, the First Law trilogy, which I do plan on reading soon, and all kinds of other things in between. The podcast will be hosted by myself and another YouTuber by the name of Jackie, who runs a channel with the name Me, My Skirt and I. I'll put her links in the description below, so definitely go check out her content. I just wanted to throw out this notification here since you'll see the first episode come out in about a week from now. I will send out another notification closer to the time, but I just wanted to let you guys know ahead of time, just so you can familiarize yourself with Jackie and so that you can build up some excitement as well. Anyway, let's jump right into the video. As many of you may be aware, I've recently been rereading the Mistborn books. As I was reading The Final Empire, I began to think about how it would all play out in some kind of live-action adaptation. Then I remembered that Brandon Sanderson has mentioned that he intends to turn Mistborn into a film trilogy one day if possible. That sent me down a whole train of thought around how this book would look as an adaptation. So today I'll be listing the 5 main changes I believe will have to be made to adapt it into a movie. Of course, this is all pure speculation, and there's no indication that there will even be an adaptation coming out anytime soon. But as a fan, I still think it would be fun to consider all the different aspects and how it would be changed to fit the runtime of a film. And who knows, maybe when it eventually happens, we can look back and see just how accurate this video turned out to be. But with all of that said, let's jump right in. Training. So I'll be a bit cheeky with the first entry and list a change that Brandon has already mentioned. As some of you may know, he's writing the script for the adaptation himself, though there's no confirmation that any studio has even picked it up. Now, there has been interest in having it picked up, though Brandon couldn't find a scriptwriter who could do the book justice, which is why he's doing it himself. He's mentioned that one of the changes he's made is by merging 2 scenes early on in the book. In the novel, there's a scene where Calcia leads Vin out into the mists to give her her first lesson in allomancy. He takes her through the basic metals and teaches her how to use them. Later on, there's a scene where Calcia infiltrates Keep Venture in order to steal some atium that they need to fund their mission. He faces off against a squad of haze killers and very nearly gets into a confrontation with Venture Mistings. Luckily, he escapes with the atium and flees to their hideout. Brandon has said that having the training scene in a book is fine, but in a movie it would be too drab and slow, so he wants to combine the 2 scenes, effectively making it a trial by fire training for Vin as she helps Calcia infiltrate the keep. I think this would be a great change, and I'm all for seeing how this would play out in a movie. Execution. There's another pair of scenes that I think could easily be merged to make the film run more smoothly. Remember that the idea of adaptation is to cut out the unnecessary parts and make things run smoothly while still retaining the essential information. In the book, around the midway point, there's a scene where the Lord Ruler orders the execution of a whole horde of Scar workers. This was in retaliation for the failed rebellion of Calcia's army when they attacked a garrison. The scene was a merciless display of bloodshed on behalf of the Lord Ruler. None of the executed Scar were part of the rebellion, and it was only done as a reminder of the Lord Ruler's power and influence. Then later, there's another scene where the crew is alerted to an execution about to take place. This time, however, it's not just normal Scar being killed as a grim reminder to the general populace. This time, it's Spook and Renew and all the servants under Calcia's employ. They had been discovered and were facing certain death. This is the scene where Calcia steps in and kills a Steel Inquisitor shortly before being killed by the Lord Ruler himself. I believe these 2 scenes can be combined as well. In the book, it works to have it be 2 scenes to increase suspense and emotional tension, but in the film it would be a redundancy. So having there only be 1 scene with the executions at the end of which Calcia is killed could work better in the context of a movie adaptation. Of course, the exact details of how this will be done would have to be worked out, but I believe this would be the smart decision in this case. Shan Ilariel. I won't take long with this one. The whole mini subplot with Shan Ilariel and her interactions with Vin needs to be cut, And I don't mean that most of the scenes of her should be cut or reduced, I'm saying cut her as a character entirely. While I do despise her as a character, that isn't actually the reason why I advocated for this. I believe she should be cut because her narrative purpose isn't very important. She acts as a point of tension for Vin during her visits to the balls of the noble houses. She also helps cement Vin's trust in Ellen and gives Vin her first solo Mistborn on Mistborn fight. Now, I'm not saying that these aren't valid reasons to have her in the story, but in terms of a movie, her role can be completely removed and a way can still be found for these elements to be at play. Vin can still find tension at the balls. She's a street urchin turned spy. There really isn't much more that you need to create that tension. And if Vin really has to have that fight with another Mistborn, to establish her skill of course, then it doesn't have to be a named character and can just be a random assassin. So yes, I'm not a fan of Shan, but you really aren't supposed to be. However, my reasons for cutting her are completely practical. The fact that it gets rid of such an annoying character as well is just an added bonus. The army. So I have another merger proposed here. And yes, I am favoring the merger of scenes over just completely cutting them. I think that merging scenes is really the best way to go because you get to have the best of both worlds. The fans still get to see memorable scenes they've read, and the story not only retains the original essence of the books, but also delivers the right narrative beats in a way that doesn't feel awkward or clunky. So for this merger, I want to merge two different parts of the story based behind the rebel army hiding in the caverns. In the first scene, we have Kelsier and Yedin visiting the army to check up on them. Kelsier uses allomancy to elevate his reputation and bring back Ham from the caverns. In the second scene, it's Kelsier and Vin who run with Pewter flared to try and save the army after Yedin makes a huge tactical blunder. They, of course, don't make it in time and the majority of the army is slaughtered. To merge the two, I would have Vin accompany Kelsier on his visit to the caverns. Everything there can basically play out the way as it does in the book. Kelsier still shows off and elevates his reputation, they still fetch Ham from the caverns to return to Luthadel, but this time they leave the caverns briefly. Maybe they scout some new locations to take the army to avoid sitting in one place and being detected. Then when they return to start the move, they find that only a small group is left after Yedin made his idiotic mistake. They charge Ham with seeing the remaining soldiers safe to Luthadel, while Kelsier and Vin use Pewter to run back to Luthadel to warn the others, so you'd still get the Pewter running scene as well. My vision for it isn't the smoothest, so the actual implementation could be a bit different, but I think this would check all the right boxes while still keeping all the important bits that the fans enjoy. Miscellaneous. And for the final change I would make, I actually want to include a couple small changes I think could be implemented to enhance the story and improve it for adaptation purposes overall. One of these changes is purely practical, whilst the rest is more personal taste and for enjoyment. I'll start with the practical. I would shorten the beginning of the story and compress it so that things get to the action faster. Look, I love Brandon's books as much as anyone, but as we all know, his books are a slow burn, and while that's totally fine for a book, it wouldn't really fly in the film industry. So start Vin's story at the Ministry during her crew's attempt at scamming them, cut out the meeting with Kelsier and the rest at their hideout, and go straight to Clubs' workshop. This is just the first step in compressing the story and cutting minor scenes that I would recommend, but since the beginning to a movie is so crucial for audience retention in the modern streaming age, I would at least start here. Now that we have the practical change out of the way, let's go to something that's more personal taste. I would change the gender of a lot of non-crucial and side characters. As Brandon has said in the past, he was so focused on getting the female protagonist right that he completely missed adding more women to the cast of characters. He has said that in the adaptation he would change Ham to a woman, and I agree with that change. I would also change Spook's gender and some of Ellen's noble friends. Add some female inquisitors, make Renew a woman as well, and perhaps even Doxin as well. These changes would do nothing to the story, but would help in balancing the cast out. The final change I would recommend is to just add more foreshadowing for the second and third movies. Make the mists already seem to be coming earlier and leaving later. That way it seems more gradual and it makes more sense considering it's only a year before the Well of Ascension is ready to be absorbed again. Hint more at Vin's ability to draw on the mists before her showdown with the Lord Ruler. Subtle hints that Ruin is altering texts would also help. Maybe even show a glimpse of some Kolos and Kandra just to add cohesion to the overall story, but no need to make a big deal of it. Also, a few subtle hints that the Lord Ruler had some noble intentions to keep something worse at bay before he says so at the end, just to add more credibility to it and to foreshadow it a bit more. All of these can be subtle and more for established fans and rewatchers, but it would really make everything come together as a whole. Thinking up changes to an established book for the purposes of adaptation isn't easy at all, but it was definitely fun thinking all of these up. Which changes would you make if you had the power to? Did you disagree with any of my proposed changes, or do you think I was spot on? Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, that has been it from me for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. My name has been Raven, and I will see you all next time. Take care, everybody.